The snowfall did not stop for a moment. The cars, lined up in a long column, moved slowly, obeying the speed of the stream. Stephen was careless. One hand drove the car, the other rested on the gear shift levers. "Damn, what a slow progress we're making," he cursed. "When am I going to get home?" He was returning from a hard day's work. He dreamed of being in the arms of a cozy couch sooner and looked longingly out the window when this snow would end, when not to run into some daredevil. "I would not like to get into an accident before the new year." The man stared tensely at the road, and here and there those who wanted to get out of the flow tried to pass. They honked loudly and warned with headlights. Brushes did not have time to wave off the heavy snow, which lay softly on the car windows. It wouldn't hurt to decorate the house for the holiday. Everywhere in the city, there are already garlands hanging, but I have none. It's a mess. "Oh," he laughed, noticing a pretty girl in a New Year's costume. A real-life snow maiden. Where is she going without Santa Claus? So, it seems, she needs help. The man carefully slowed down next to the girl, who waved desperately, trying to attract his attention. Where did Snow Maiden lose Santa Claus? Or did she get lost herself? "Please, I beg you," asked the stranger, with a pleasant ringing voice. "Take me to the kindergarten. I'm very late." "No problem," said Stephen, smiling. "Have a seat." He opened the door, inviting me into the passenger seat. It's been a long time since I've seen a snow maiden on the street. He glanced at the passenger, trying to get a better look at her, and stared at the road again. "They say that if you meet a snow maiden on New Year's Eve, happiness will come to your house. Is that true? I don't know." Smiling, the girl shrugged her shoulders. "Everything can be, if you believe in miracles." "Are you in a hurry to the kindergarten Christmas tree?" "Oh, yes, we have a performance there. I work as an animator. The bus got stuck in traffic because of the snow, so I had to hitchhike. Thanks for stopping. Nobody wants to pick up passengers in this weather. And cabs are in hot demand today. I've given up hope. It's a shame to be on time. Not time for the party if he's late. I've warned the headmaster, of course, but the children will be waiting. They will not believe that the snow maiden rides the bus." The girl smiled again. "My name is Stephen." She cast a quick glance at the girl again. "And you, Cindy?" Confused, she answered. "By the way, we're here now." The girl pointed to the brightly lit buildings of the kindergarten. "Thank you, you got here quickly." "Well, if 30 minutes is fast for you, then yes. In another environment, I would have given you a flash to the address on such roads." The girl laughed. "That's pretty fast. It's a good thing I knew to leave the house early." She glanced at her watch. "Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much again. The show's gonna start any minute now. Let's catch our breath for a while. Or the children won't see the snow maiden, but a fire horse. Tell me, how much do I owe you?" "And I'll run. Are you laughing?" Stephen looked at her reproachfully. "You don't owe me anything. It's not every day you get a ride from a snow maiden." Although Stephen was determined to unbuckle his seatbelt. "Can I come with you?" "I haven't been to a children's party in 100 years. "I don't know." Cindy hesitated. "Why would you? You might not be allowed in. You're a stranger. You're the only one who knows." He winked at her. "Lost in the crowd of parents, that's all. No one will think I'm here on my own, not with a child. Well, if that's your idea of an emergency. May I introduce myself as your chaperone? You can do anything today. You're my savior. But you'll have to make your own arrangements, sir. I'm sorry, but I can't escort you. Don't worry about me. In the Alliance. Into the general stream. Mixed in with the audience? I'll be like everyone else. Then, I'll run. Cindy looked at herself in the mirror at the entrance to the foyer, fixed her hair as she went, and went straight into the hall. Stephen looked around a bit and stood behind his parents. A Christmas tree was born in the forest. Grandfather Frost piped in his bass, seeing the round dance of children in the forest around the tree. It was growing. The children sang along in a slender chorus. The man saw Cindy join the round dance and began to sing along to Santa Claus. In a clear, steady voice. Oh, look, there was a loud whisper from someone's mom. Our daughter! What a beauty in that dress! And how well she dances. I probably shouldn't have put the hair costume on him. He's all sweaty. We should take off his mask. It's all right, Father reassured me. We'll see him through to the end. Is he a man or is he not a man? Into what? It's good how he recited a poem to his grandfather. Mine couldn't memorize 4 lines. Our son has an excellent memory. He easily memorizes poems. Proudly replied someone's mother. And I wanted to ask, where did you buy such a cool suit? I ran all the stores. Nowhere found the symbol of the year. A neighbor gave it to us.
The children grew up, but the costume remained. What educators are good? Interesting performance prepared. All the children participated. No one is sitting on the bench. I thought we'd be
I never knew. Look how well he's leading his partner. Oh, I can't, the woman laughed. It's like a real artist is performing. Surprisingly, Santa Claus is sober. Remember last year when he fell asleep at the tree? Yeah, that's right. I don't remember. Did they turn him into the police, or did the director file a complaint with his boss? And the Snow Maiden is nice. She knows so many riddles. She speaks kindly to the children. Look how they're all around her. We should ask if she can come to the house to congratulate a child. Stephen smiled to himself, listening to the conversations of the parents who watched their children with amusement. Finally, the holiday ended. Everyone rushed to their children, and the man approached Cindy. Cheerful, she smiled as she said goodbye to the children, while the girl waved. Happy New Year! Happiness, good health. You're doing a great job, Stephen remarked, stopping next to her as the number of parents and children wanting to take a picture with her dwindled. That was a lot of fun. Loved it. If I had a little more, I'd be dancing myself. It was a good event today, she agreed. Not always so lucky, yes, laughed Stephen. I heard the Frost fell asleep under the tree last year. That happens. Cindy smiled, she embarrassed, under the gaze of her new acquaintance. Daddy, you've come. Suddenly, there was a child's cry, and a boy in a Spider-Man costume jumped into Stephen's arms at full speed. The man was taken aback, but he picked the child up, and the child threw his arms around him and grasped his neck tightly. I knew it. I knew you'd come. I've been waiting for you. Stephen saw the few parents and children start to look at them curiously. He was so surprised by the boy's behavior that he couldn't say anything. Nor could he unhook the boy from himself. He clung to him with all his might, and so they stood embraced in the crosshairs of prying eyes. You risk strangling me, the man said jokingly, trying to loosen the grip of the children's hands. Let him go. It's not your daddy, Cindy said quietly. But the boy stubbornly turned his face away from his mother, clinging tighter to the stranger, as if seeking protection in the dark vapor. The woman spoke again, more sternly. What am I to do with him? I beg of you. Another glance at Stephen. And for God's sake, don't be angry. I suggest we go and get dressed. He shrugged. I will not dress, the boy stubbornly declared. He realized that then he would have to say goodbye to the stranger who he thought was his father. But we have to take your clothes. Stefan tried to be patient. It's cold outside. Aren't you Santa Claus? Just Spider-Man. You get cold, you get sick, and you should listen to your mom. I always listen to my mom. I'm not cold, but the little boy said bravely. Cindy hastily gathered up her son's things, and Stephen covered him with his jacket and took him outside. Give me the address. I'll drive you. Kevin finally loosened his embrace, and the man lowered him into the seat. No, Cindy protested. We'll get it ourselves. I'll put him on in the car now, and then we'll go. She deftly removed the boy's suit and put on a warm jumpsuit and jacket. Would you excuse us? I don't know what's gotten into him. He's usually calm, polite, and now I don't recognize you. Shame on you. She rebuked the boy. The man will think you're completely rude. You've embarrassed him. Why are you acting like this? Because everyone in our group had dads at the party, and I didn't. I wanted everyone to see that I have a daddy too. Now no one's going to call me names. I understand, brother, Stephen said with a smile. No offense taken. Well, we gotta go, Kevin. Say goodbye, these, Stephen. Goodbye. Let's not keep him. They're probably waiting for him at home. Cindy reached for the door handle, but Stephen stopped her. Nobody's waiting for me except my parents, and I've been in front of them for a long time, not reporting where and with whom I spend my time. I'll drive you. It's no trouble to me. Where will you and the baby go in this weather? You'd have to wait for a cab for who knows how long. I'm in no hurry anyway. What's the address? Cindy gave the address, agreeing to herself that it was foolish to refuse help, which is really like a little stubbornness. She persuaded herself. The man offers to help, and I'm showing my temper. He doesn't mean any harm. Yes, we are neighbors, Stephen exclaimed as they drove into the yard. I live 2 houses down from you. Wow, and we've never met. Oh, the man turned off the engine. That's probably because, Cindy said, you drive to work and I take public transportation. Kevin had fallen asleep. He glanced at the boy, who was sleeping sweetly in the back seat, curled up. He'd gone to sleep. The boy is tired, sighed Cindy. So many experiences today. Cindy, will you forgive me for asking? Stephen spoke cautiously. Where is the boy's father? I'm not married, the young woman replied sharply. If that interests you, the father has never been interested in his fate and has not taken part in his upbringing.
Yes, he knows of his son's existence. That's the question you wanted to ask next on the list. Yes, I'm a single mom, and I don't see that as a crime. I'm perfectly capable of being both mom and dad. Kevin gets everything a child of that age should get. What other questions do you have? Don't be angry, Stephen said conciliatorily. You have a beautiful son. Why did you choose such a strange job? Animator, in my opinion, is too dubious occupation to support a family. Do you have an education? Of course. The girl frowned. I'm a translator in a small firm. Only money is always short, so I work part-time as an animator. When free time appears mainly on New Year's holidays and sometimes on weekends, why, it's not bad money. But I try to spend as much time as possible with my son. Do you have relatives, acquaintances? Don't they help you? I only have my mom. She's retired. And of course, she helps whenever she can. Without her, I'd be lost. It's very hard to raise a child alone. He's still young, he's often sick, but my mom helps me out. I'm not on sick leave, for which I thank her very much. Stephen suddenly realized, why not? He immediately perked up, studying the girl's face. I definitely like her. Cindy is the perfect person for my adventure. She's beautiful, smart, and artistic, and she's got money to spare. I think I should offer her a part in my play. That way, I don't have to look for anyone else. I've been racking my brain trying to find a date for myself, Cindy. Stephen hesitated, searching for the right words to be more convincing and not to look crazy in the eyes of his new acquaintance.
I have a rather unusual request of you. Before you answer anything, you might want to think carefully about my proposal. What kind of request? She was immediately wary. You must play the part of my fiancé. What? Did Cindy move fearfully away from Stephen? No, that's out of the question. Are you out of your mind to suggest such a thing to me? We hardly know each other. Oh, wait! He grabbed her arm. I need a fake bride for hire. What do you mean? The girl was dumbfounded. Well, your task is to pretend to be my fiancé for one evening. I'll pay you very well if it works out. The man quickly added, just one evening, and you'll have a tidy sum in your pocket. I can afford it. You're a professional animator. Huh? Just instead of a fairy tale character, we'll play the bride. That's all. I'm not offering anything supernatural. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? The woman looked at him suspiciously. You have a problem with the female sex. And you're afraid to tell your parents? No, the man blushed. How could you think that about me? I have a great relationship with the female sex. There is no shortage of women who want to get into bed with me, but they're all unfit to be my bride. And marriage is not in my plans for the near future. That's not the point. You see, my parents are coming to visit me in 2 days. They're passing through town, and they're very anxious to meet my fiancé. And you don't have one? Cindy laughed. Don't laugh, please. I haven't met the one I want to marry yet. I can't help it if I don't want to get married to the first woman I meet. Well, explain that to your parents. Why cheat? You see, Stephen sighed heavily. He didn't know how to explain to this strange beauty the delicate nature of his situation. My parents are insanely disturbed by their youngest son's lack of a bride. They are very nice to me. But the idea of marrying me off immediately has become an obsession with them. If I confess to my mother that I still have no one, she will immediately bring me to see the daughter of her friend. And she's, how can I put this delicately? Not my type? I want to find my own wife, and I don't need a matchmaker, even if it is my mom. That's why I need a rental bride, and you're perfect for that role. What a mess, Cindy said with a laugh. I'm sure there's a girl in your neighborhood who'd be happy to pretend to be your fiancé. Why should you? I don't understand. You've never seen me before in your life. Such proposals are usually made to acquaintances. Don't laugh, Stephen muttered. This is not a role for acquaintances. How you need an outsider? You just don't know my mom. She'd be hard to fool. She knows all my tricks. Up until now, I've been able to get away with it without a scandal. But if my parents don't meet my fiancé this time, I'm dead. No one can stop Mom now. She'll get what she wants at any cost. And before I know it, I'll be married to her friend's daughter. Please help me. I've helped you out in your time of need. Now you'll do the same for me. Listen, what's in store for your fiancé? You're not going to offer intimacy. Your mother's not going to stand in the bedroom with a candle and test the seriousness of your relationship. It is possible not to be afraid of it. Trying to keep a serious expression? Asked the girl. Not mocking? Stephen stepped in. Of course I'm not. Legend has it that my fictitious fiancé is my name and my daughter. We don't live together for anything. Out of the ordinary, you will not have to do the only thing you may have. To close your eyes, chastely kiss on the cheek. But that's purely for the purity of the experiment. And then, hiring you for just one evening to appease your parents, you can spend a couple hours in our company, and then, citing busyness, deviate. I'll pay you well. Cindy thought for a moment. I don't know if I should accept. Why do I want to do all this? Let's make a deal. Stephen tried to be patient. The idea of making Cindy a bride has taken him over completely. You think about it today, we have at least one day. I'll leave a second day just in case you don't agree. To talk things over properly. Call me tomorrow. Okay? Okay, she said reluctantly. I'll think about it. But you're not counting on me too much, are you? I don't like to cheat, especially not on my parents. Well, that's fine. I'll write down my phone number. I'll be expecting a call from you. Call me. I need to know your decision anyway. Okay, I'll call you tomorrow. I have to go now. My mom's probably worried by now. And my son needs a ride home. Don't worry about that. I'll help you. Stephen took the sleeping boy in his arms. Show me the way. I'm so embarrassed in front of you. Why are you driving with us? You'd be resting at home by now, wouldn't you? I'll feel obliged. The man waited until Cindy opened the door to the entrance and silently went up to the floor. Here he handed the boy to his mother, quickly said goodbye, and left. The girl opened the door to the apartment where you stayed so long. Her mother rushed to meet her. It's time for Tama to go to bed. You're tired too. Hush! The baby's asleep. Cindy went into the room, carefully undressed her son, and put him to bed. Then she went to the kitchen. Hungry? The mother asked. Sit down at the table. I was worried. I didn't know what to think, where to look. Couldn't you call? She reproached her daughter. The holiday is long over. Oh, Mommy. The young woman kissed her on the cheek and sat down at the table. You have no idea what happened to me today. She told both about Stephen and his proposal. And now I don't know whether I should go along with it. It's a little suspicious. What do you think? Should I take it? He promised me good money. A strange request indeed. Camille sat across from her daughter, watching her eat. A poor young man. I understand him well. The worst thing is when parents unceremoniously meddle in the life of their adult child. So you have to pull all kinds of tricks. I agree with you. Cindy nodded her head. Well, if you agree, then I should help. And take a good look at him. What if he's your destiny? I don't believe in coincidence. There's a reason you met. Come on, Mom, what fate? There's my destiny sleeping with his nose in the nursery. I don't need anyone but him. You're at it again. Mother spat out her hands. It's been 3 years since Kevin's father left you. It's time to think about the future. First of all, he didn't abandon me, he ran away. And secondly, I'm thinking about the future. Not your future. Kevin, why do we need a stranger? We're fine with just the two of us. Are you going to spend the rest of your life alone? Who will you stay with when I'm gone? Why, if I meet a worthy man, I won't push him away. I don't want to settle for a random guy. Hey, I need to find not only a husband, but a father for Kevin. Where are they, your worthies? They're not lining up for your heart. Look, and the daughter about her happiness. I'll have it all. Mommy. Cindy got up from the table and hugged her mother. Thank you, my dear. Can I rest now? I'm tired. Go, Camille sighed. I'm here without you. It's okay. Cindy went into her and her son's room, undressed and stretched out on the bed with relief. The events of the evening stirred up memories. She closed her eyes. The image of John appeared in her mind. Handsome, tall, slender, he immediately turned the head of the decline. She fell in love with him without memory. John was lying in bed. Next to him, a beautiful girl who did not take his loving eyes off him. Sweetheart! John looked at her naked figure. I have to leave tomorrow. Don't be angry. Circumstances are stronger than I am for a long time. Cindy smiled at him and wrapped her arms around his neck. You see, the man faltered. I'm out of a business trip. A business trip. The smile slowly fell off the girl's face. But I thought, sorry, I didn't tell you. But you didn't ask. It all came together at once. I completely lost my head with love for you. I couldn't think about anything. Who cares where I live? But will you come back? Cindy asked hopefully. We shall see you again, won't we? Of course, John replied eagerly. I'll do some errands and then I'll be back. I have a vacation coming up, so it won't be a long separation. He kissed her. I'll be back before you miss me, and we'll do something. You'll miss me, won't you? Promise me you'll call me every day. Of course, sweetheart. Do you know how much I hate to leave you? But I have to. Don't go, Cindy begged. I'm sorry, the man sighed. But things don't wait. John left and disappeared. My daughter, worried mother. You've been so sad lately. What's wrong? John hasn't called? So call him yourself. I do. But his phone is always off. Maybe something happened? Even if something's wrong, he could have called so I wouldn't worry. I don't know what to think. You look pale and you haven't eaten anything. You can't do that. Men love with their eyes, and you're as pale as death. No man would ever want to look at you. I've been feeling really bad lately, and I've been feeling nauseous in the mornings. I don't eat anything like that. It's just the usual nausea. Nauseous in the morning? Camille poked me. Daughter, you're not pregnant? Tell me, did something happen between you two? Mom, are we adults? No. Cindy shook her head. No way. Go to the hospital. Get it checked out. It won't be any worse. At least you'll know for sure if you're pregnant or not. A week later, the girl already knew she was expecting a baby, and her mom cried, "Why isn't John coming?" He promised he'd come back. How do I tell him we're going to have a baby? I don't think he'll be too happy about it, sighed my mother. If he wanted you, he'd have come a long time ago. But I don't think he's going to come back to you. He doesn't need you alone. Not with a child. How am I supposed to find him? He has to know I'm pregnant. The baby needs a father. Cindy decided to try to track John down through social media. I wish she hadn't. Cindy's little girl. Camille ran into her daughter's room when she heard loud sobs. What's wrong? Are you sick? Where does mommy hurt? The girl sobbed. I found it. Look at me. What an easy, loyal fool I am. I thought he was serious about me. But he just wanted a pregnant girlfriend. He probably has more than one like me in every city. The woman looked by the monitor and saw a smiling, satisfied John in the arms of a tanned beauty. They stood with their bodies pressed closely together and kept their gazes on each other. He's been sobbing loudly for a long time, Cindy said. He's just having an affair with me. He'd forgotten I existed, and as soon as he got on the train, you see, he was bored. And then I came along, naive fool, and I fell right into his arms. And I believed he really loved me. He used to say such nice things to me, pretending to be so gentle. How could he do this to me? Tell me, Mom, why? How could I believe him? I'm not a good judge of character. What can I say? Camille sat down on the edge of the bed, stroked her daughter's head. You're not the first, and you won't be the last. You get caught in the nets, skillfully set by heroes, lovers. Life doesn't end there. Tell me, what are you going to do with the baby? Time is running out. To give birth, of course. Wiping tears, said the girl. It's not the child's fault that his father turned out to be a mean man. Then write to the grief-stricken father and tell him to take part in the baby's upbringing. He should know what he gave up, and so should his daughter. It's not just about getting the baby back on its feet. No. Desperately shook Cindy's head. There's no way I'm going to write now. I want to forget him forever. Put him out of my mind, huh? I don't want to see or hear from him ever again. You shouldn't, her mother said calmly. I think you should write to him and tell him everything. Who knows, maybe he will be glad and rush to you. The girl hesitated a little, but she wrote to John. No reply came a day later, or a week later, or even a month later. No answer? The mother asked after a while. No, it's all right. We'll be fine, Cindy said. We can do without him. Wouldn't we? Camille said, looking sadly at her daughter. I thought you'd be happier than me. You're not. You're repeating my fate. Did you have a husband? Cindy remarked. I had a father. What kind of father is that? Mother threw her heart out. Have you forgotten how he drank? He got to the point where he was found in a back alley with his head smashed in. Yes, he didn't love anyone but the bottle, and he didn't need us. You were an orphan when your father was alive, Mom. But the police never determined the cause of his death, and he was sober at the time. That's what's so surprising. Yeah, it didn't look like a robbery. His wallet, paycheck, watch, even his wedding ring were all found on him. I still don't know what happened to him. I've heard all sorts of theories from the police. Revolving. That's his rivalries and squabbles between his friends. Even the teenagers were suspected. Yes, sighed the girl. Versions one another crazy. How did you and I survive then? I died of grief. Did you have to take care of the house? I remember what you went through. It's still scary. Remember, my daughter handed out flyers on the street and picked vegetables at the store. And in the summer, she went to pick strawberries in the field to help me. My poor girl. If it weren't for you, I'd be dead long ago. You didn't let me give up. I was studying too, Cindy grinned. I had time for everything. Was this the future you were looking forward to? Where did that John of yours come from? He showed up, and you forgot about everything. And then you got pregnant, and your whole life went down the drain. Why do you say that, Mom? I'm glad I'm having a baby, and I have no regrets. At least I got my degree, or I'd be unemployed. Stephen. Cindy thought it over, listened to her mother's opinion, and decided to call the man. I agree to play your bride, Cindy. He was pleased. You have no idea what you have done for me. I had already despaired of waiting for a message from you. I couldn't wait to call you myself, could I? I'm very glad you called me. We need to meet urgently to discuss how you'll behave and what you'll say if I pick you up in an hour. That's convenient. Yeah, I'm free. Great. See you then. Stephen waited impatiently for the girl. When he saw her, he got out of the car. Hello? Get in. He opened the front doors. We're going to my apartment now. Why? The girl asked fearfully. I thought we'd talk in some cafe. According to the legend, you and I have known each other for a long time, so you should feel free in the apartment. Mom will immediately realize that you have never been to my place. Do you agree? Yes, I agree. Then let's go. Thank you for accepting my invitation. The man looked at Cindy. I'll tell you all about it. Hopefully, we'll be able to put my ancestors off their guard. If the play fails, I'll be in trouble. My mom's bound to make a fainting spell. And then it's all the same old ER. Tears, oohs, and ahs. Judgmental looks. My dad will sigh and say that he always taught me to be responsible for my actions, not to deceive my parents. So he doesn't know why I'm being so reckless and is sure to complain to his older brother. That's when it's going to be a real disaster, because it won't take long for my brother to remember the fake bride. He's such a righteous man. So, dear Cindy, there's no margin for error. Please. Stephen invited her into the apartment. The girl walked around the rooms, memorizing where everything was located. The man thoroughly instructed her, down to the last detail, telling her how to behave, what to say. They exchanged life stories to get a sense of each other's backgrounds. You memorized everything. Cindy nodded. One last thing. Let's use the first name. I don't think you're appropriate in this situation. Don't you agree? Yes, I agree. Then I'll pick you up tomorrow. I mean you. He drove her home that evening. They talked a lot on the way, trying to learn as much as they could about each other. Stephen was nervous, waiting for his parents to arrive. The young people sat in his apartment, discussing the last details. Cindy was nervous too, but tried to keep herself in control. Repeat the legend, the man asked again. I want to make sure you don't fool me. Cindy obediently repeated the memorized phrases. My name is Camille. I'm 25 years old. I work with you in the same firm. I'm a translator. Your mom's name is Emily, your father's. Robert. That's right, nodded Stephen. What topic should I not talk to my mom about cooking? Your mom loves to cook, which means any mention of a recipe will be taken as a call to action. Good for you. You can talk to your dad about anything. Just don't argue. Just go along with it without saying anything. Got it. All right, good. They're going to be here any minute. So let's just calm down and get in the mood for the meeting. I wish us luck. I'm going to the kitchen. I think the chicken's in the oven ready. That's when the doorbell rang for Cindy. Open up, shouted Stephen. The girl opened the door, smiled welcomingly. Hello, she said. In the semi-darkness of the stairwell, she didn't immediately realize who was standing in front of her. The girl decided that the tall, stout man was Stephen's father. Come in, please, Robert. We're waiting for you. She stepped aside to let the guest through. My name is Camille. I'm your son's girlfriend. She held out her hand to Vash. The man turned to face her, and the girl froze as if paralyzed. Hello, said the guest, smiling broadly. I am John, Stephen's brother. You are? Cindy exhaled. What the hell? The man turned pale. The girl realized that he recognized her too. Where are you from? Isn't that the devil? Stephen spoke cheerfully, appearing behind Cindy's back. Didn't she introduce herself to my fiancé? Her name is Camille. I know it's hard for you to believe that your little brother's gotten smart. What brings you here, brother? We weren't expecting you. The men hugged. Where are Mom and Dad? Looking at his brother, Stephen asked. The girl could not utter a word. What to do? John, Stephen's brother. Ironically, something polystyrene in her head. My God, how I longed to see John, to embrace him, to kiss him. And now I have this overwhelming urge to scratch his face. How could he just run away from me? He didn't even bother to explain. Coward! What a coward! Where were my eyes? Of course he recognized me. What's going to happen now? He can apologize and leave before the deception is exposed. John won't keep quiet. Why would he do that? Yes, perhaps it's best to leave before something irreparable happens. But how do I explain my running away to Stephen? How can I? The Lord works in mysterious ways. Indeed. I'll tell you how I got here later. Without taking his eyes off the girl, John promised. You better go downstairs. My parents are down there with their suitcases. Your elevator's out of order, as usual. I'll get my stuff, and you go get your parents. Stuff? I'm gonna take a break. I think your fiancé can get me some water.
Why don't we go together? The girl was afraid to be alone with John. I can handle it. You take care of John. I'll go get my parents.
Stephen looked encouragingly at Cindy, quickly kissed her on the cheek, and walked out. John closed the front door behind him and walked right up to the girl. Look, the man loomed over her threateningly. I don't know what you're up to. For what reason did you name the cereal? How did you invade my brother's trust? But I'm not going to let you deceive him. I will find a way to expose you. I wasn't going to, quietly whispered Jean, who from the pressure. John tired. Her mind was a mess. She was at a complete loss. What were you going to do? What? I figured it out. Did you somehow find out that Stephen is my brother? And you decided. John didn't have time to elaborate. There were footsteps on the stairs, voices. Oh, yeah. Everyone's panicking, Cindy thought. The escape route is cut off. Now it's up to them. Mom, Dad, entering the apartment, Stephen spoke cheerfully. Meet my fiancée, Camille. Hello, Camille. Emily looked at the girl with interest. It's so nice to meet you. Can it be we've waited? And our youngest son has finally made us happy. Robert kissed the outstretched hand. Oh, I'm so glad. Very glad. My son has good taste. He's mischievous, winked Stephen. Well done, Camille. Her mother took her under her arm, leading her into the living room. We were so worried that our boy still had no braid. All we dreamed of with his father was that he would meet a nice girl and find happiness. We can't believe it has finally happened. God heard our prayers. And then you came along. Stephen carefully hid his fiancée from us until I insisted and demanded to meet you. Mama. Stephen gently released Cindy from the captivity of her mother's arms and sat her down beside her. Let's get to the tables. It'll all get cold. John, pour the champagne. It's time for a toast. It's been a long time since we've been together as a family. We haven't had an occasion, Mother said cheerfully. Now, I hope we'll meet more often. After a little champagne, Cindy relaxed from the shock. Camille. Emily, where do you work? We work with Stephen. I'm a translator. How nice. I've always envied people who are fluent in foreign languages. You and Stephen met at work? Oh, yeah, of course, John said. What else is a girl to do at work? Find a husband, of course. There was a sneer in the man's voice. Office romance, then. You're not bad, are you? Did you get the right guy? I wonder how long it took you to choose. Were there many candidates for your hand? Probably chose them carefully and examined each one under a microscope. What are the criteria for a potential groom? John, it's clinging, my mother said unhappily. It's no surprise nowadays. Where else do young people get acquainted if they don't go to clubs? Camille, don't mind my eldest. Who are your parents? Just my mom. She's retired. You should speak mockingly again, Stephen. Before you choose a bride, you should meet your mother-in-law. You never know what surprises await you in the future. I've heard there is an unspoken rule. I'll want to know what your wife will be like in her old age. Meet the mother-in-law. Mom, I'd be more discreet if I were you. And anyway, how well do you know the woman you're going to marry? The angelic exterior can sometimes hide a demon, and the past holds terrible secrets. It wouldn't hurt to look into your fiancé's background. Cindy gritted her teeth but remained silent. She tried not to pay attention to John's outbursts. Stephen, however, was getting angry. John, stop speaking in riddles. Stephen frowned. Don't spoil the evening. Where's your famous hospitality? Camille is already shy in unfamiliar surroundings. And here you are with your jokes. If you don't stop bothering her, I won't think you're my brother, or I'll smack you in the face. She's my woman. I won't let anyone insult her. Not even you. The boys are freaking out, Mother. What did you think? It stopped, both of them. We don't want to have a scandal here. What will our guests think of you? I wish I could get inside her little head, John said mockingly, and find out what your fiancé is thinking. I'm sure there's a lot of curious things lurking in there. John, I don't understand why you're picking on Ira, Stephen said, glaring angrily at his brother. Keep your opinions to yourself. I'll do without your advice somehow. If you didn't have a pregnant Christina, I'd think you liked my fiancé. Why? Maybe I did. Smirked a grin that managed to make the hop fly John. There was an awkward silence at the table. Camille, tell me, why do you want our Stephen? What do you see in him? He's not an oligarch. He can't take you abroad often, buy expensive jewelry. What do you need him for? Why don't you leave him before it's too late? You'll find a better match for yourself? What are your plans? Let the fortune teller get married as soon as possible. John approached the girl, stood behind her back, leaned over and asked in a loud whisper, What secrets are you hiding? My dear Camille, have you ever been married before? Have you any children? Hearing the last phrase, Cindy rose from her seat in Excuse me, I have to go. She quickly went out into the corridor and began to hurriedly dress. The girl could not stand John's bullying any longer. Where are you going, dear Camille? We didn't finish the conversation. It was coming from behind her. Are you an asshole? She heard Stephen's lowered voice. I'll never forgive you for ruining dinner. You're out of line. What right do you have to make fun of my relationship with Camille? Take care of your own first. Really, John? Emily reproachfully reprimanded him. You are behaving inappropriately. What's the matter with the poor girl? What are you doing? Are you snapping at her, Stephen? Talk, Camille. Stay, Cindy. Stephen dashed into the hallway, caught the girl by the arm. Don't go, please. I can put that boor in his place. He's drunk, so he's talking nonsense. I can't stay. She tried not to look the man in the eye. What can you do? My brother didn't like me. Don't go. Forgive him. I don't know what's gotten into him. He's usually so hospitable, but this time he's gone off the rails. Stephen took the girl by the chin, forced her to look at him. Then, obeying some inexplicable impulse, he moved forward and touched his lips gently to Cindy's. Stand, I beg you. I promise John will be silent for the rest of the evening. The girl closed her eyes for a moment, savoring the kiss, then pulled away from the man. I'm sorry, but I'd better go. Tell him I don't feel well. That's not far from the truth, by the way. I don't want to ruin the evening, and I've already played my part. I hope your parents believe us, and you won't have any difficulties. And I won't let you go, Stephen said suddenly, and started to dress. I must see you off. How can you go alone? If anything should happen to you, I won't forgive myself. No, the girl protested fearfully. We're your guests. It's not proper to leave them. Do you have a family? I don't want you to fight over me. I'll get there on my own. In fact, I want to be alone. Without seeing me off. That's unnecessary. Shivering, she ran out into the street, but no sooner had she left the entrance than the man caught up with her. But why did she have to run? He kept up with her. I wish I'd thrown John out. You're my guest. I led you into all this. I'm sorry I had to listen to my brother's drunken ramblings. Why did you make sure Cindy almost ran after me? She wanted so badly to get away from her hated home. My parents will rest just fine without me. And John put John to bed. The girl said nothing. So they walked through the snow-covered city in silence. Each was thinking about his own thoughts. Cindy? Stephen spoke at last. When I left, John said you weren't who you said you were. He sounded as sure as if he knew you weren't my fiancé. I thought he knew you. I wasn't wrong. Had you known him before? Unfortunately, the girl said in a muffled voice, he does know who I really am. But from where? The man was surprised. How long have you known him? I didn't tell me that for some reason. I only found out you were brothers today. Buckaroo! Otherwise, I never would have agreed to your adventure. The desire to meet John is long gone. Yes, we've known each other for quite some time. Cindy has decided to come clean. Whatever happens, she thought, there's no hiding the truth. I'd better tell him how I know his brother. There's no telling what John will say about me. At least I'll tell the truth. There's no point in hiding it. You won't like what I have to say now. The men waiting looked at her. John, the father of my son. Suddenly, Stephen even stopped. So startled was he by the news? How did you two meet? By chance. I've never been a fan of noisy groups, parties. And then a friend of mine talked me into going to a nightclub. Said her boyfriend was coming with a friend, so it'd be more fun. So she took me out. Everything was fine until one of the buddies had too much beer and started hitting on me. Cindy wrinkled his nose, remembering that party. But something was breaking. The guy dragged the leaning girl toward the bathroom. There's a secluded spot where we won't be disturbed. He pulled her against the wall and started kissing her. Cindy tried to dodge him. But the guy, despite several knocked-out cocktail glasses, was more agile. He pulled her tightly against him with one hand and reached under her blouse with the other. "Oh, you're so hot. I love that kind." And he was breathing his breath in Cindy's face. It made her puddle. "Give me a hug. Don't be so hard on me." She wanted to get out of his arms. "Don't touch me. I don't want to." I'll scream. "No, doll. I won't let you go anywhere." The young man laughed. "I want you right now. We'll have a good time, I promise. No one will hear us here. You can scream. I'll even enjoy it if you resist." "I don't want to." "You will," he promised. "I know how to handle even someone as stubborn as you." Cindy finally realized that she wouldn't be able to get rid of him that easily. "Look, you don't have to tear my clothes off," she spoke, trying to keep her voice from shaking. "I undressed myself. Let me go. That's better." The boy relaxed and loosened his grip. Then Cindy pushed him away as hard as she could and rashly ran away. She grabbed her clothes and sprinted out into the street. "I managed to get out of the party without saying goodbye to my friend," Cindy said. "I was so disgusted that I decided to walk to calm down and get some air after missing the club. I almost made it home, but on the way I remembered I had to stop at the store. It was slippery outside that evening, and I accidentally slipped on the steps and twisted my foot. At that moment, the door to the store opened, and a man stepped out onto the porch. It was John. And like a true gentleman, he rushed out to help. In his place, perhaps anyone would have rushed to my aid. Cindy grinned. I was frozen in a fever, grasping the rail, and I didn't know what to do. The sight of me was horrible. Slashed with smeared mascara in a short skirt, with my legs sticking out from underneath in tattered tights and high-heeled boots. And she was moaning. I was afraid to move. Every movement caused such unbearable pain that sparks flew from my eyes. Yeah, I don't know how long I would have had to stand like that if it hadn't been for John. He practically carried me all the way home. As we talked, I forgot about the pain and the fact that some drunk guy had tried to rape me. No wonder my brother's got a big mouth. That's pretty much it. I didn't get home right away that night. We stood in the driveway with him for a long time. I didn't want to break up. He was different from the older, more experienced guys I knew. He had a strong masculine air about him. When I was about to leave, John invited me to a cafe. That's how your affair began? Yes, I was too naive and didn't notice anything around me, dazzled by John's charms. I was flattered by his attention. The next day, we went to the movies, kissing in the darkened auditorium until we were insane. And then we sat in a cafe. We saw each other almost every day. What happened next? It didn't take long for me to fall in love with your brother. He was a hero in my eyes. It was the happiest 2 months of my life. I idolized him. I think if he'd told me to die for him, I would have. How stupid I was. I didn't share anything in the relationship between a man and a woman. I thought he took me seriously. I had already made plans for us to get married and live together. I believed in his feelings. Han never gave me a reason not to believe him. The disappointment was too much to bear. 2 months after we met, he just disappeared. Disappeared like he never existed. The world fell apart in an instant, but could you call him, write him? I mean, you exchanged phone numbers. You think I didn't, Cindy said bitterly. I kept dialing his number, but the phone was disconnected. I didn't know what to think, to look for him. All kinds of thoughts came into my head. My mom was afraid I'd go crazy. I waited every day for the door to open and for him to come in. He just got on the train and left. He didn't care what I was going through. I'm listening to you, and I can hardly believe you're talking about my brother. He couldn't do that to a girl. John is an honest, decent man. I'm sure he is. Cindy glanced at Stephen. I thought so too. but you only know him in one way, as a brother. A man can behave differently in different situations. He treated me like a toy, played with me, and threw me away. The girl was silent and then continued her story. And then I found out that I was pregnant. You can't imagine how I felt at that moment. The young people stopped at the entrance of the house where Cindy lived. Then, the man grabbed the girl's arm, turned her toward him, and forced her to stop. So you didn't immediately discover that you were in an interesting position? Are you sure it's John's baby? Have you had other young men? Stephen asked and immediately regretted his words. The woman's eyes recognized the pain. She waved once and answered him with a ringing slap. The man, wrinkling his nose, grabbed his reddened neck and cheek. I don't understand why I told you everything. What was I hoping for? From resentment took the girl's breath away from hunger. A lump of tears stuck in her throat. I wanted to believe you were different. Wrong. Forget what I told you, and forget me. I'm a rented bride. Is your rental time over? It's closed. Subject. She turned her back on him and grabbed the handle of the front door. Don't you dare call me again. Cindy, you have to understand me. John is my brother. Stephen held her back. What you're telling me is not for him. I've known him all my life, and I find it hard to believe what you're saying. But that doesn't mean I don't believe you. It's not just the horrible that it takes time to figure things out. I'm sorry I ever met you in the first place, the girl said in her heart. I have nothing more to talk to you about. Don't ever call me. Forget my name. I don't want to see or hear from you anymore. That's what Mom used to say. You men are all the same. Looking at him with regret, she turned sharply and quickly disappeared into the entryway.
A fooled Stephen wandered home without noticing anything around him. What a fool I was to have offended a good girl. I should have said something like that without thinking. Now I have to talk to my brother. I can't live my life until I know the truth.
I have to hear his side of the story. Let's see what he has to say about dating a downer. I just need to get my head together. I still can't get my head around how John could do that with a lowered one. There's got to be an explanation. Yes, the best thing is to talk to my brother now, or I won't be able to calm down. Here. Stephen opened the door cautiously. The apartment was quiet. His parents were already resting. There was a dim light on in John's room. Stephen decided not to be ceremonious with his brother and went to him. He was snoring peacefully, lying on the bed and wrapped in a blanket. John. Stephen shook him by the shoulder. Waking up. I need to talk to you. You hear me? Get up. Are you delirious or something? The man asked, wrinkling his nose in frustration. I don't know what I need. It's nighttime. What kind of talk? It doesn't bother me to sleep. I'm tired and I'm not thinking straight. Go to your room. Tomorrow we'll talk if you want. He turned on his other side. Leave me alone. Let me rest. I will rid you of my presence as soon as I hear the truth. Talking to me now is in your best interest. I will not let up until I hear an intelligible explanation for your wild behavior at dinner. We'll talk to you now, one-on-one. Tomorrow you're going to have to explain to your parents because I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I want to find out how you know Camille and about what John reluctantly sat up, rubbing his sunken eyes. It's your fiancé that's bothering you. Well, I'll have you know, your Camille isn't Camille at all. She's deceiving you. Her name is Cindy, and she has a child, and she's hardly fit to be your bride. Find something newer. She's a real piece of work. Terrific, Stephen said mockingly. How much do you know about her life? Where did you get this information? You know her name, and you even know about the child? Explain, brother. How did you get such valuable information? When did you get to know her? John got nervous. Hell of a mouthful. He's not going to let up now. I was trying to do a good deed to keep my brother out of trouble. Turns out he got himself in trouble. He don't need to know how I know the lowlife. I think I'll just keep quiet for now and figure something out tomorrow. Cindy's probably already told him everything. But who will Stephen believe? That's the question. Stephen, he said conciliatingly. Come on, I'm not going to explain anything. The less you know, the better you sleep. Hey, just trust me. This girl is no match for you. But why do you want her? She's not exactly fresh. Find someone more worthy. I'm older than you, and I know a thing or two about women. Forget about her. I swear you won't lose anything. No, brother. It's not going to work that way. You're not just going to get rid of me. You're going to tell me everything about how you met Jean, how you ran away from her, how you knew she was having a baby. You acted like it was none of your business. That's what happened. Admit it. You were just scared of the responsibility? Come on, tell me what really happened. Don't play hide and seek with me. I'm not going to let you get away with this. And I'm not going to let you sleep until you tell me the truth. Stop dodging. It's not just my wedding day. It's your honor, okay? John spoke peacefully. Are you convinced? I'll tell you everything, but on one condition. Oh, you're going to dictate terms to me. No conditions. Tell me how it really was, and we'll part peacefully. Look, I don't want my wife and our parents to find out. It's a long time ago. We don't need to dredge up the past. Let's keep this story between us. Understand me man to man. We're brothers. What kind of a girl would want to break us up? Stephen, have you lost your head over her? She's not worthy of you. You let me decide who is or isn't worthy. I will, promised Stephen. I won't share the details of our conversation with the family today, but you do me a favor and be honest and tell it like it is. Mind you, I know the story from Cindy's own words, and I have no reason not to believe her. Now it's your move, brother. Oh, well, to hell with you. You're not going to say no anyway? Give me some water, he asked. He took the outstretched glass in one gulp and drained it. Sat back down. The story is an old one. My father-in-law then sent me on a business trip for 2 months. John spoke. When I got my thoughts together, I asked for permission to stay in your new apartment. Do you remember that when I refused, citing renovations? Yeah, I do, I asked you to watch the work in progress. Well, that's when I met Cindy. Nothing unusual. A business trip, a loneliness, pretty girl. She liked my advances. It was consensual. But you and Christina were in love at the time. You were getting married. So you were attracted to someone else? That's true. But I really lost my head over her. She was naive, gentle, homely. I missed that. Christina, she's different. I only married her for the money. There's no love. We're good together. Big feelings are just a dream. It was different with Cindy. Was it like a spark between us? I've never felt anything like that. And Christina's just a bargaining chip. And you're so comfortable talking about it. John, I don't recognize you. You're treating your family like a compulsion. What's left? You don't know everything about my relationship with my wife. I met Christina at a party. We were in the same crowd. She was really drunk. She could barely stand on her feet. I felt sorry for her, so I offered her a ride home. Her father opened the door. Christine had already passed out. I carried her home in my arms and put her on the bed. I was about to leave when her father invited me to dinner. Why are you looking at me like that? I didn't say no. I was curious. I knew who he was. At dinner, as usual, we got to talking. What did he decide to thank you for saving his daughter? Stephen asked mockingly. You shouldn't laugh. My father-in-law is a businessman. He started asking me where I was studying. I told him my dream was to get into a prestigious institute. Believe me, I wasn't going to complain to him that it's impossible to get in without a favor. He's well aware of that. So it was thanks to him that you got in. Stephen grinned understandingly. Did Christopher get you in? Yes, John nodded. Well, not him, but his friend, the rector of the institute. But that doesn't change the point. Then, Christine's father got me a dream job. Without connections, you're nothing. But now I have everything I want. My parents used to tell me to look up to you and see how to pursue my dreams. And they just put you there. It's a good thing to have a father-in-law like that. How much I've learned today. Turns out you didn't do everything with your own brain. You were just in the right place, at the right time. You have no right to make fun of me. The man got angry. I studied hard. I was among the best students. And then, it's one thing to enter, another to get a profession, my dreams. I was happy because I had what I always wanted. What's wrong with that? No, I get it. But how did you manage to marry Christina? But you saved the girl. Got a thank you from her father. Why marry her? That was later, John said quietly. I fell in love with a girl. Her name was Kira. We were happy, but the hour of reckoning came. I didn't realize that a degree was a high-paying job. It's all thanks to Christopher. I've already forgotten that meeting. My life was slowly getting better, and that's when he reappeared on my horizon. Christopher called me, asked me to come over. I couldn't refuse him. John squeezed his fingers on his hands, hesitated, and then continued the story. He began to ask me if I liked his daughter, and then he declared that Christina had fallen in love with me. I should marry her in gratitude for his help. But you already had a girlfriend? Stephen marveled. Yes, I had. I told Christopher about it, but he wouldn't even listen to me. He promised me trouble, not only at work, but also at the institute. I realized I was in trouble. That's when I learned that miracles don't happen. All my well-being is his far-reaching plans. I'm just a pawn in his multi-way game. And you believed he could hurt you? Not at first. John grinned bitterly. I couldn't even in my wildest dreams have imagined that such a thing was possible today. But then, like magic, I got in trouble. Teachers were failing me on my exams. Getting my diploma was in serious doubt. A large sum of money went missing at work, and I was blamed for the theft. What could I do? He had me on all sides. I had two choices. Go to jail or marry Christine. So you gave up? No, not right away. I'm not a coward. But circumstances were stronger than I was. About a month later, Christopher called again and started asking about my studies and work from afar. What could I do? I complained that things were bad. Then he did. To settle my affairs on mutually beneficial terms. The win-win was marrying Christine.
At first, I was told to start courting her for appearances. She couldn't guess that we'd gone behind her back to arrange it, even though she had fallen in love with me. But her father's interference in her life would not be tolerated.
She's spoiled, of course, but she wouldn't buy love, let alone force me to marry her. Didn't you know who organized the trouble? No, I didn't realize until later. I had no intention of suspecting Christopher. Well, we talked and talked. That was the end of it. He needed to get his daughter settled. If I hadn't come along, someone else would have. He probably had a thing for me. You can't deny I have knowledge and talent. I'm in my place. In the future, my father-in-law planned to give me his business. And you agreed. You made a deal with your conscience. How low have you fallen? What else could I do? Otherwise, he would have taken everything away from me. What about Kira, your girlfriend? You dumped her. I had to break up with her right away. I was under a double whammy. On the one hand, I always felt the all-seeing eye of Christopher, and on the other, Christina controlled my every move. She turned out to be very jealous. I couldn't take any chances. Did you give her any reason to be jealous of you? Of course not. John cringed. We spent all our evenings together. I was trapped. She was suffocating me. I couldn't afford anything at work. My every move was monitored by my coworkers and reported to my father-in-law. At home, Christina controlled my social media. I was completely out of control, Eunice. It got to the point where she made me unfriend all the girls. So I couldn't stay. She wouldn't have agreed to be my lover. But I can understand Christina here. She couldn't let you cheat on her. You don't know how hard it was for me. I didn't know what to do. I was suffocating and on the verge of a nervous breakdown. I don't know how this story would have ended if the stars hadn't aligned for me. But he kept silent. My father-in-law sent me on a business trip for 2 whole months of freedom. You can't imagine how excited I was to break free from the cage. How come Christina didn't come with you? That was lucky, too. My wife was opening her own beauty parlor and was completely absorbed in the business. She didn't have time for me, and my father insisted I go alone. I guess he knew Christina would distract me. She didn't dare disobey her father. I rejoiced. Once I was free, I had an affair. Trust me, he wouldn't have met Cindy then. He would have found someone else. She just happened to fall into my lap. We met by chance. She fell in front of the store. You should have seen her when she was left on the ice. She's got a protective butt. What about those legs? They're a dream. The way she moved me with them. I still get goosebumps. Stephen was disgusted by these details. He wrinkled his nose and looked at his brother angrily. You can imagine, John said eagerly, not paying attention to Stephen's condition. She was still a virgin. I was stunned when she told me that. I didn't believe it at first. I thought she was just putting a price on herself. You don't see anyone like that around here, do you? But then she just fell into my arms. I didn't even have to beg her. Our first night together was truly unforgettable. It was worth risking my reputation for. Luckily, there was no one here to keep an eye on me. But I was careful not to publicize my affair with Cindy. So neither my father-in-law nor my wife knew anything about my little adventure. At that moment, Stephen jumped to his feet, flew up to his brother, and struck him with force right in the jaw. John, who had not expected such a thing, did not have time to dodge, and blood spurted from his lip. "Did you smoke?" he roared, smearing blood on his face. "I'll wipe you puppies to powder. Don't yell if you're going to," whispered the enraged Stephen. "What a scumbag you are! Played with a girl, deceived her, and now you mocked her." "I didn't expect you like that. I thought my brother was a man. A real man. And you? Did you know Cindy was pregnant? Tell me." He grabbed my brother by the collar of his shirt and shook him. "I knew," John mumbled, swallowing blood. "Let go of me. It hurts so bad. What are you getting so worked up about?" "It's in the past. How did you know?" "Cindy messaged me on social media. Yeah, she tracked me down. Lucky I read her message in time to delete it. If Christina had done that, I'd be a dead man walking. Little bitch almost ruined everything. Why didn't you text her back? Why didn't you support her when she needed you the most? Why didn't you just call her and explain yourself? You didn't say anything. Pretended it didn't concern you. I couldn't. It would have meant losing everything. Christina would never forgive me. Too much for what I had at the time. If I'd taken the fall, I'd have to tell her about Christina, and then I'd be finished. You see, I would have lost everything I'd been striving for." Stephen looked at his brother in silence. Then he stood up again, looked at him, and went to the door. "She'd probably demand that I recognize the child. I don't want one. What do you want me to do? You want to hear an admission of guilt? It's her fault. She's the one who stepped on me. I didn't force her into bed with me. She's not a little girl. She knew and understood perfectly well. If she'd thought of the consequences, she wouldn't have gotten pregnant. Why should I recognize this child? Who asked me if I wanted it? Could I have had an abortion? What's the problem? No, she chose to give birth and then demand that I recognize the child. Don't look at me like that. I have nothing to be sorry about. She loved you, even though you were not worthy of her love. You love no one but yourself. Don't you talk to me like that. I'm your elder brother. It's not for you to judge me. Everyone lives his life as he knows how and makes his own choices. I repent of nothing. Stephen took hold of the doorknob. Stephen, did you promise not to say anything? You're not going to drown me. Stephen walked silently out of his brother's room without looking back. He felt sick to his stomach. He wanted to be alone. He lay down on the sofa in the living room and closed his eyes. It is necessary to calm down and decide how to proceed. I didn't expect John to be so mean. His parents always set an example for me. So now what? I never thought I'd be disappointed in him. How could he do this? Nothing is sacred to him. Poor Cindy, very young, alone with a child. So deceived by the man she loved with all her heart. And it turns out it was her first love. No wonder that now she doesn't trust any man. It will be hard to convince her otherwise, and I blame her. The man buried his face in the pillow and gritted his teeth. Fool, I should have frozen it. She won't let me near her anymore. I've got to think of something. On New Year's Eve, the city was alive with anticipation. Here and there you could see Santa Claus and the Snow Maiden on the street. A car stopped in front of Cindy's house. Santa Claus sat behind the wheel. He got out of the car, took a big bag with presents, and entered the entrance. Mom, open up. I guess the neighbor's here, Cindy shouted from the turf the kitchen. When the doorbell rang, she said she'd come in to congratulate us. No, daughter. There was a surprised voice. Camille, it's not the neighbor. Hello, kids. There was a man's voice. Girls and boys. I was walking through the cold forest, bringing you presents here. No mistake. This is the right address. This is where Mom lives, Mom. The boy flew out of the room. He saw the visitor and hid behind Cindy, who stood with her mouth open in amazement. Who is that? He looked at the uninvited guest, both frightened and delighted at the same time. Santa Claus, you probably have the wrong address. We didn't call you, the girl said confusedly. I don't need a special invitation. Is that you, Kevin? He turned to the boy. He nodded. Still hesitating to go out to meet the fairy tale hero, I was told, you are very much looking forward to the present, right? The little boy nodded again. I know all children are waiting for presents from me. I know you've listened to your mommy all year. You've been great with Grandma. And they decorated the tree waiting for me. That's what I say. Tama came out of his hiding place. He stood looking at the guest for a minute. And then he smiled broadly, turned to his mother and said, Mom, this is a real Santa Claus. He even knows my name. Will you show me the Christmas tree? The boy's mom looked at her questioningly. Can I show Santa Claus our Christmas tree? But please, just one look, and that's all. Without waiting for permission, he grabbed Santa Claus by the hand in a big red mitten and pulled him into the room where the Christmas tree shone with lights in the corner. Excuse me, Cindy muttered half-heartedly. Did you really have the wrong address? We won't be able to pay for your services. There's been a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding. The man also answered in a low voice. He winked at the girl and lifted his false beard to see who was in front of him. Cindy quietly, Ayo, threw it. Stephen, oh, what are you doing here? I thought we'd already cleared things up with you. She looked sternly at the man. I demand that you leave at once. And I won't. I didn't come to see you. Let's talk later, Stephen suggested. We're not going to talk about our relationship in front of the child. Santa Claus. Did you like our tree? Asked Kevin. The man smiled with one eye at Cindy and looked at the boy. I liked it very much. Who drew the tree? Who put the lights on it? Mom and Grandma. And you helped? Oh, Santa Claus helped. Oh, where's your snow maiden? My snow maiden stayed in the forest with the animals and birds. They're doing round dances and waiting for me. Stephen sat down on the sofa in the living room and put the bag of presents in front of him. Kevin looked at him as if mesmerized. Now I'm going to make Santa Claus happy. I want to hear what you have. Prepared me a song, a poem, or a dance. What can you do? Kevin. The mother sat down next to the boy. Read Grandpa a poem. Yes, I'll make the old man happy. I love to watch kids perform. Kevin, embarrassed, began to recite. We decorated the Christmas tree and lit the lights, like stars shining on the branches. They put up toys to make it cheerful. And we celebrate the new year with our friends. The grown-ups applauded, and thank you. Here respected the old man, not in vain. I came to visit you. Do I have any presents for you? Stephen took out a heavy, multicolored bag from the sack. It's candy, but you can only eat it with Mommy's permission. It's a deal, little man nodded. The man took a large box out of the bag and placed it on the floor. The boy stared at it admiringly. Holding his breath, he watched the guests retrieve the railroad into the light. Mom clapped her hands together, Kevin, and jumped for joy. I had always dreamed of having a railroad like this. Santa Claus somehow found out that this was the kind of gift I was waiting for, because I love to play railroad myself. Well, let's get the train up and running. Kevin, you forgot to thank Santa Claus. Thank you. Oh. Smiling happily, the little boy said, Stephen. Kevin went to work. Camille took her daughter aside and asked Cindy, Who is that? Do you know him? Stefan blushed, the girl replied. The same one, rounded, the woman said into her eyes. I wasn't expecting him. I didn't want to see him at all. He'll have to explain why he came. Well, you saw him. Take a closer look at him. Oh, the daughter slyly winked. Breaking. Not to miss out on his good fortune. Kevin is so drawn to him like he's known him all his life. That says a lot. Must be a good man. Kids can always sense who they can trust and who they can't. Mom, don't rush things. We'll figure it out. He's hurt me if he thinks I've forgotten everything. That's not true, daughter. If he came here, he wants to apologize. Ask for it. He'll listen to me first, and then you can chop my head off my shoulders. What a father. Our family dinner. Look at them. There's no telling who's older. Cindy joined the men, and Camille set about preparing the New Year's Eve table. Stephen started the carriages down the track. Santa Claus, won't you leave us, I beg you? Moore looked at the guest boy. If your mom lets me stay, I won't go anywhere. I like playing with you, Mommy. The child hugged his mother's neck. Let Santa Claus stay with us. I will tell everyone in the kindergarten that I had a real Santa Claus as a guest. Let them all get one. What about grandfathers? Shouldn't the other kids be giving out presents? Cindy gave Frost a sly look. There's not much time left until New Year's Eve. My helpers can do that. Stephen looked at her expressively. I'm old. I need a rest. All right, Cindy took pity. Let her stay. We'll all celebrate the new year together. The theme was jumping around the room with joy. Sit down. It's getting cold. Santa Claus must be hungry, laughing. Everyone took their seats. There was a lot of excitement at the table. The boy incessantly ran out of the table to look at his new toy. While the adults were talking, tired from the excitement and happiness that suddenly fell on him, fell asleep right on the floor next to the railroad. Ew! Time to open the champagne, Cindy realized. It's 15 minutes till New Year's Eve. Look at that. Oh, fie you. Camille splashed her hands. Kevin fell asleep. Poor guy. He couldn't take it. No wonder he'd been through so much today. Tomorrow he'd be bombarded with questions. Stephen got up carefully, took the boy in his arms, and carried him into the nursery. Cindy quickly undressed the baby, covered him with a blanket. Both returned to the table. Happy New Year! It came from the TV, huh? Oh, hurry up and raise your glasses, suggested the girl. We have to make a wish. Everyone started making wishes with each other. Stephen. Cindy smiled. I guess that's you now. You can take off your costume. Mom, I'd like you to meet me. This is Stephen. Stephen, this is my mom, Camille. The man took her hand and kissed it. It's nice to meet you, the woman said, looking at her daughter's admirer with interest. I think I'll go to bed too, she said after a while. And you sit as long as you want? Daughter, she whispered in Cindy's ear as she went into her room. Don't miss a man like that. Stephen, Cindy was left alone. We should hide the suit. Stephen broke the silence. Oh, really? Cindy realized. We'll have to find a better place to hide it. After a few minutes, having hidden the traces of Santa Claus, they returned to the table. Thank you, spoke the girl, for making the holiday for his son so happy. I've never seen him so happy. Cindy, Stephen took her hand. I was afraid to go to you, afraid she'd chase me away. I'm sorry. I'm so ashamed of what I said. I've been going on and on. I've been cursing at you. I didn't know how to apologize to you. I talked to my brother. What did he tell you that was new? Probably blamed it all on me. Unfortunately, I didn't get the best look at him. To say I was disappointed is an understatement, but he's my brother, and it doesn't matter. Cindy, the only thing I've realized since I haven't seen you is that I can't live without you. I couldn't stop thinking about you, huh? Did you think about me? I can only hope you forgive me, I thought, the girl confessed. At first, I was very offended. I wanted to forget, but I couldn't. I'm really ashamed. I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Do you love me a little? I do. Stephen put his arms around her. The girl hid her face on his chest in embarrassment. Imagine, we might never have met. Stephen took Cindy by the chin and kissed her. They sat next to each other all night, talking, laughing softly. Afraid to wake Camille and Kevin, toward morning, sleep watched both of them. They fell asleep like that, sitting on the couch in each other's arms. They were awakened by the boy's ringing voice. Mom, has Santa Claus already left? He asked sadly. Gone, Cindy replied with a smile. But he promised to come back next year and told me to learn a poem. What will he give me next year? The adults laughed. Camille was already rattling the dishes in the kitchen. The whole family ate breakfast. And then Stephen suggested we go for a walk. I know a great slide. Kevin, do you like to go down slides? Yay! He jumped in and clapped his hands. I love my mom. Come on, let's go. Cindy dressed her son as they walked outside together, whispering to Stephen, It's a good thing we hid your costume safely yesterday. I didn't want my son to find him. Let him believe in a miracle for as long as possible. Stephen picked up the boy in his arms. The boy trustingly hugged him around the neck. I believed in a miracle. To meet the Snow Maiden on New Year's Eve. Fortunately, you are my happiness. You are my happiness. He kissed first the boy on the cheek, then Cindy. The girl took her lover under her arm, and so they walked through the